but I hate to call this an I told you so story, but unfortunately, to all you Mahas watching out there, make America healthy again. Yeah, it didn't quite go the way you wanted it to. But the way any of us want, we were really hopeful, right? We were really hopeful that RFK Jr. could come in, that Trump was assigning the right people at the right jobs, but apparently it wasn't the case. And so this tweet comes out on True Social of Trump, and it's going to tell us everything we need to know about the capture of everything, of big pharma capturing everything. There's nothing we can do about it, and we did say, "I told you so." Donald Trump puts this out. I'm proud to announce that Dr. Susan Monarez is my nominee to serve as the next director of the CDC. She brings decades of experience championing innovation, transparency, and strong public health systems. She has a PhD from the University of Wisconsin and postdoctoral training in microbiology and immunology at Stanford University of Medicine. Wow, that's pretty. Sounds great, or does it? Or do we have a little more unfortunate information about the doctor and her history at championing and protecting big pharma her entire career, including this recent post from August. The updated COVID shot is here. Oh, right. This is August of 2024. Wow, look at this. The CDC recommends everyone 6 months and older. 6 months and older. Are you freaking kidding me? Get an updated COVID vax. Vaccination remains the best protection against severe illness. Make you plan now to get your updated COVID and flu shots. All you 6-month-year-olds out there listening, make sure you get on your phones now and book your appointment. 6-month-year-olds, you should be able to do this without your mommy's permission, of course. Man, what a letdown. And those that thought that there was some like secret chess game being played where Trump was going to get someone in there. And I want to remind people, that the two other people being considered, it was Dr. Dave Weldon, and the Florida Surgeon General, Dr. Joseph Ladapo. Both of them were considered before this woman, and they would have been excellent choices if you want to talk about what the MAHA movement stood for. And I say stood, I'm saying it past tense now, Jay. What it stood for, those two would have been exceptional choices. And Dave Weldon was bait and switched. He was going to be the nomination, and he was pulled away. And then I don't even think the Florida Surgeon General even got a chance to get past his name was being talked about. And here we go. This is the official nominee. Go for it.
Well, I do have to say, I'm a little Maha light still.
Okay.
Like me personally, I was a volunteer on Kennedy's campaign for a long time. I did not ride with him when he went over to Trump. So I did not vote for Trump. I voted third party. However, that doesn't mean, I still don't wish Kennedy the best and hope that he's going to do the right thing. And in their defense, I will say that Kennedy did actually take a big step in repealing a loophole that essentially allows companies to put products into our food until someone can prove that it's not safe. He kind of reversed it and made it so now companies have to prove that the products they're putting in our food are safe. So he is making a little bit of progress with some of the power he's been given as far as the National Institute of Health goes. The director of the NIH is actually Dr. Jay Bhattacharya. I think he might have, one more vote to clear still. But he did get the nomination, and he's definitely, a champion for truth, in my opinion. So we do have signs of hope in there. However, it's definitely a mixed bag. And, this person who just got nominated to head the CDC, which is a key agency because they're the ones who are approving, these experimental shots, right? Like the other ones contribute to the process, but I'm pretty sure, the CDC like is the one that's, approving it there. So I'm interested to see how this all plays out, because if she was recommending as late as last year for 6-month-old babies to take the mRNA therapies, just knowing that they are not really affected by COVID and there's no evidence that long COVID impacts them or anything like that. Like that right there is disgusting, like in my opinion, because we know there's plenty of evidence that they do have potentially bad effects on a lot of people. So you cannot justify the risk to benefit like ratio. So when I heard that, they withdrew the two other nominees, who you mentioned without even trying, it tells me that Trump is actually still trying to give cover to the people in Congress who are backed by Big Pharma. Because guess what? Even if you thought the guy you really wanted to do it wasn't going to make it through the nomination process, you still nominate him. You know why? Because it's the right thing to do, and it puts the Congress people on the spot, and they have to put their money where their mouth is and prove that they're really Maha. And Trump didn't do that. So, when you look at, her background, it is pretty dark. Like that tweet you gave is just one example, but she did work with DARPA, in the past. And
let's
for the
let's go through her history because I want to get to the DARPA thing as well.
Exactly.
So we did find this compilation. So you were talking about some other stuff she put out there. I mean, this stuff's pretty incredible. She's talking about the measles is preventable, and the only way to do this is to ensure everybody gets vaccinated. Everybody, hashtag vaccines are safe. Wow. And then she goes to she's taught. So all of this, if you guys just look at all this, this is her messaging that she's a pharma rep. Let's not mistake this for she got it wrong. She's not. She's a little slower than the rest of us. She just takes a little more time to get it. This is what her job is to rep pharma. So her being the nomination doesn't even mean, I mean, we got to stop cutting Trump a break here, Jay. We got to stop saying, oh, he's trying. No, he's clearly not in charge. He's clearly not able to do the thing he wants to do. He wanted the Dr. Dave Weldon in. We know he wanted it in. He was going to be the nominee. He put it out there. Then he was told, he was instructed by his overlords, his big pharma overlords, no, you're going to have to make a switch. You're going to have to tell Dave Weldon he's no longer consideration. Do you know how we know that Trump was frustrated by that big time? And RFK Jr. certainly was frustrated by that, because we know that Steve Kirsch called up RFK Jr. and said, what the hell's going on with Dave Weldon being taken off of this? What happened? And this qualifies what you said earlier, Jay, is that RFK Jr. has been given a red light, a green light to go with the big food stuff. So that's all great, but he's been given a you need to back off of pharma. And specifically, you need to back off of vaccines. I'm gonna add one more in, because I know that and we're gonna go down this this woman's Monarez, Susan, her alignment with DARPA in a moment. But I just want to point out, because you mentioned Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, and his big moment during COVID was the Barrington Declaration. And that's where he said, we got the lockdown wrong. I'm not so sure if the first thing he's put out there is, we got to do something about vaccines. So maybe, just maybe, his involvement is to show us that we needed to not have a Fauci knows all approach, one size fits all as far as lockdown, shutting down small businesses, destroying people's lives, destroying schools and kids, all that stuff. They've admitted that we got that wrong. So maybe there's an element of that coming into play to allow him into the mix, that we know, hey, we need to have another opinion, and we don't need it to be censored and shut down by Dr. Collins and Dr. Fauci, which is what they did. And we've seen the emails. We know that they deliberately silenced Dr. Bhattacharya.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
ideally, we wouldn't have a big pharma sales rep anywhere,
right,
like in
exactly.
the
Yeah.
administration. Like, you should not put the fox in charge of the hen house, right? This should be like common sense. But, it does seem to me, like you're pointing out, that that's exactly what we have right here. But again, if you just follow the money, behind Trump's campaign, all of this makes sense. And, the DARPA thing, that's only one element of it. She's a big proponent of wearable technology, vaccine passports. So, all that ties into, the big tech funding behind Trump's campaign. So, it's kind of following Whitney Webb's, predictions
Mm,
like to the T.
yeah.
So if you want to understand what's happening out here right now, I recommend to all of our viewers, if you have not read Whitney Webb's book, One Nation Under Blackmail, in addition to watching The Homeless Left, which you definitely got to do, you should take a little time and go read both of those books because, there's a lot of great information in them, and it really helps put all this in perspective so you can see where the duopoly is going.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's take a look at Susan Monarez's background and her DARPA alignment here. So this is the here we go. I'm gonna read this one. So this is Jessica Rojas put this out. Let's discuss Susan and her various roles. So she worked for DARPA. She wants to expand the use of wearables and to see who is vaccinated or unvaccinated. So this is, like you're saying, this is the AI stuff. She wants to get into that technology so she can surveillance people and keep them on a grid. This is all the stuff that we know the Maha people don't like this. They don't want this. She was previously the director of the Project Agency for Health, Advanced Research Project Agency for Health. It was within the Health and Human Services, so she's already been in this arena, so she knows it well. With the Biden administration, and
meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
So this is modeled. This agency within the agency that she's already been part of is modeled after the U.S. Military's Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA. Wow. And so and there's Trump's tweet again. I did find a clip of her speaking on, it's called DARPA TV. It's pretty crazy, man. Let's take a little look at this, because they actually have a I don't know where this gets shown on. I mean, obviously on their whatever website, but she's actually speaking and selling this garbage, this packaging, right? On the actual, I guess it's on an outlet of DARPA. Here we are. This is a clip of that. Here we go.
Advancing AI for healthcare in a number of different facets. So some are direct to the patients. What tools and what capabilities can we develop to help them really understand where they are in their healthcare journey and empower them to make great decisions? We also think about AI from the provider side. So how can we help providers better understand their patients? How can we help providers optimize their time within the health system
and optimize their bank accounts? All
of this sounds very familiar, man. It sounds like more Operation Warp Speed, because we got to make sure they're up to date, man. Do you have your vaccine passport, Matt, that lets you count your boosters? Because if you haven't taken 3 this year, they do wane in effectiveness, man. You got to get your spring booster, your fall booster, and 2 in the winter, because you got to get the flu and then the COVID. Unless they combine them together, then maybe you can take 1, but at least 3 a year. You got to stay up to date, Matt.
Oh my God. This is insane. This is insane, man. I just want to tell all the if there's anybody, still with the COVIDian mindset and the Trump derangement and all this stuff, I just want to assure you guys out there, you never had anything to worry about. Just so you know, you thought they were coming in, they're gonna hijack all your pills, they're gonna hijack all your vaccines. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna get all the shots you want. This new regime ain't taking away your shots.
Well, you know what the difference is, Matt. You know what the difference is? Under Biden, there was zero pushback for the vaccine salesman. And now, you got a tiny bit of pushback from one or two people about forcing it on everyone,
Mm,
but they're still
yeah.
going to let you take it. So maybe instead of 90% of the people all agreeing this is a good idea,
Yeah.
maybe it drops down to 60 or 70% temporarily. But don't worry, if we get a Democrat back in office, they're going to pick right back up, where we left off. And I'll be honest with you, this is probably aside from supporting genocide, this is my biggest issue with the Democratic Party right now, because not only are they supporting a genocide over there, and in all of our foreign policy, it's kind of genocidal for us, like what they're doing with these shots. Now, obviously, the instant terror, might not be the same, but they're trying to make a lot of people's lives difficult, man. And people don't realize the mandates aren't gone. Depending on what industry you work in, that mandate is still in effect. Like, you have to, if you're in healthcare, like, they're still asking you for it. If you go to hospitals, like, there are hospitals in California right now, if you don't want to get the COVID shot, then you got to jump through all kinds of hoops to try to get a declination. And even then, it may not get approved. So to this day, they're still being forced to do it. Now, thankfully, they're not even keeping up with the boosters, but for some reason, a lot of them still demand those 2 initial shots. It makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, look, there's just I just like when I look at the MAHA movement, and I watched kind of like at every turn there's another disappointment happening. Again, the left has nothing to worry about. You guys are fine. I feel bad that the guy that was supposed to lead this, RFK Jr., is not even doing his job at the HHS. He's not doing his job, man. And I think I think he's been hijacked. I think we know that ever since he opened his mouth on Crystal and Saga that day, that was the big moment, right? When he said Palestinians are the most pampered people on the planet. That was the moment, that was the big tell that he is captured, he is controlled. Can you explain this, Jay? Can you explain to me why RFK Jr. is using the HHS tweeting account to put out this garbage? Why is he doing this? This has nothing to do with his job. Have you seen this one? Secretary Kennedy, instead of inspiring universal condemnation to the October 7th Holocaust, triggered a global wave of anti-Semitism. Ivy League campuses became a greenhouse for poison. President Trump has ordered his cabinet to use every constitutional tool to uproot this divisive weed. I'm glad Colombia has agreed to this first step and will begin to restore itself as a garden of tolerance, reason, compassion, and respect. And before your thoughts on this, Jay, our boys over at Due Dissidence, they kind of nailed this response. Maybe Doge should look into why the Health and Human Services Department is spending time and resources writing statements about anti-Semitism on college campuses. Seems pretty inefficient. Jay Scott, what's going on?
Yeah, I can tell you exactly why. I just sent you a link, in the back channels. And what it is it's a tweet. It's a tweet that's screenshotting an article from Ben Shapiro. And
Yes.
in this article, Ben Shapiro says, why does it matter who killed JFK? And in my personal opinion, I think that's why, Kennedy is tweeting about anti-Semitism, because it looks like Israel probably had a pretty big hand, in the assassination of his father and uncle. And I'll never forget this. And I want everyone to go fact check me on this. The same day that RFK Jr. endorsed Trump, his dog died. Did you know that, Matt?
No, I did not know that.
The exact same day that he went out and endorsed Trump, his dog died. So, in my opinion, Trump's been deep state, the entire time. He is part of the deep state. So do I know for a fact that Kennedy has not been blackmailed in some way? I see a lot of people saying, oh, he was Epsteined and all this crazy stuff. I mean, I don't have evidence of that. I do know that he was on Epstein's flight, apparently, like before the Lolita Express ever existed, but he was on a private plane with him. But his family was there too, like at the time. So if you were to ask me, I don't think that's likely. I do honestly believe that he is still a wild card. And I do think he wants to do what's right. But again, if everyone just looks at the history of his father and his uncle, they were both calculated in trying to make progress, and they all played ball until they were in a position where they could make the change that they wanted. So do I know for a fact that Kennedy is ultimately on the right side and he will come through when it comes time to stand up? No, I don't. However, if you were to ask me to pick who I think is the best hope of providing some change in his administration, I would say bar none. It's still RFK. So, and I want everyone, right, to go, to of course criticize him as he does not pull this dangerous poison, this mRNA shots off the market. Continue to criticize him and pile on the pressure, but go read his book, like Vax Unvax. Go read his book about Anthony Fauci, but particularly the Vax Unvax book. And I'm on the last chapter of it right now. I've been breaking it up because I'm in school, I'm working, I got a lot of stuff going on. So I didn't get to like sit down and read it, cover to cover. But like the amount of data that's out there, like supporting his beliefs is actually a lot. And the fact that he hasn't spoken out about it, like since he got this position, but he's instead, speaking out about anti-Semitism, it does anger me. It does anger me. It does make me ask, like, what's going on? Why are you taking so long? And clearly, it seems he has been given the green light on the food situation to at least try to rein that in somewhat. So I don't know if we're going to see a turnaround on the mRNA and the vaccine situation before, like he loses some power. But I'm hoping they're going for the low-hanging fruit first, and maybe they're trying to organize some studies with the NIH, because hypothetically speaking, just hear me out on this. The National Institute of Health is the arm that does a lot of these studies, right? And they're able to uncover a lot of this information. However, each of these studies are going to take time. The CDC is the arm that does, and the FDA, those two agencies handle a lot of the approvals, right? So if you have RFK up top and you have Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, at the NIH, hypothetically speaking, it is possible for Dr. Jay Bhattacharya to combat some of this, vaccine misinformation coming from the mainstream media and coming from folks like the vaccine salesman who's heading the CDC. Maybe some of these studies can be done, and we can take the content that's in his book, Vax Unvax, and we can actually start a national debate about that. So, in the meantime, like, I guess we're going to have to deal with a lot of this fear porn. They're going to try to blow up every single, sneeze, every single, virus that pops up, even if it's just, like a harsher strain of the flu that pops up. So, we'll see. But like, what I will say is, I don't believe in trusting without verifying, and I don't believe in trusting without applying pressure, and I don't really believe in trusting politicians at all. But there's nothing wrong with being hopeful that maybe, there are one or two people in a position of power who do have, like, the right mindset. Because if you think about the flip side, if there's no hope, then, we should be out getting the revolution on right now. I mean, like, that's what we should be doing. And we should honestly probably be doing that anyway. But is the population going to do it? We really need that spark. And I don't know what that spark is going to be. But, when I hear situations like, what happened to the director, like of the film, like stories like that, they do stir up some emotion. And I think that's why they had to release him before that story started gaining too much traction, because that was what brought down South Africa. there was too much bad PR. And I don't know how much longer personally, like, Israel is going to be able to keep this up, because it's just been over a year, like, a straight genocide. So the bad PR is stacking up. But yeah, man, I'm hoping that we can. I guess the biggest difference though between South Africa and Israel is Israel is integrated into our intelligence agencies and our politics in a way that South Africa never was. There were links there. Our intelligence agencies did work with South Africa's intelligence agencies, but it's not how it is with Israel. They have a lot more influence on us. So it'll be a harder chain to break. But with all this bad PR they're getting, I mean, I'm hopeful that we can make a change, as long as they don't, shut down social media, because that's the wild card. If they shut down social media and they really start, taking away our ability to communicate with each other about these issues, then that's revolution time. Like, you can't delay it anymore at that point. So, and this is why you gotta love places like the Revolutionary Blackout Network, because they're pushing for it now. Like, they're not ready to wait. They want to go now. And
no, because they've had enough of the Pied Piper, sheep herding stuff that we get from Bernie and AOC. We just covered this earlier today in the show. That's their job, and I believe that we're watching this happen on the right as well, which is basically RFK Jr. and Trump basically in a position where they just have to sheep herd because they have no other choice, because the Israeli lobby, the Israeli influence is so great that they're forcing Kennedy, who's the HHS secretary, to tweet out about anti-Semitism. This is the problem. The problem isn't, oh, he's captured. He's got to say these things. They captured the agency he's in charge of too. That's how bad this is. They're not even going to let him just go over here, do your health stuff. We don't care. No, they're sending a message to all of us that they're in charge, no matter what the agency is, no matter what the Twitter account or the whatever it is, we're in charge, and that's it. And so you showed me the Ben Shapiro thing. Like, that's another. It's a clear example when we can't even have an honest discussion about the murder of JFK, which is basically RFK Jr. It's his uncle, for crying out loud. We can't even have a normal conversation. And this is the best. I saw this one going. This is hilarious. This is a little Wheel of Fortune meme. And that's just they throw that's funny. CIA and then Pat Sajak's face going, "Are you kidding?"
I'm sure it was a combination of forces that did it, and it wasn't just one force. But when you look at the number of Zionist connections there, I mean, damn, like I would say, if I had to put the weight between the Mossad and the CIA, a lot more of that weight is going on the Mossad side. And of course, the CIA had to be involved; they had to be complicit too. But
of course,
like not our ambassador, what's the liaison between Mossad and what do you call it, the CIA, was the person who most people who blame the CIA point to as the master.
We covered it
James
last week.
Angleton. That's it. He's the one. So
he was the liaison. 100%.
Yeah, he's the liaison.
There. Yeah.
He would, like, JFK was there in Dallas because a Zionist group invited him there. Lee Harvey Oswald was being transferred because a Zionist who headed that council called for his transfer to happen, and Lee Harvey Oswald was assassinated by someone associated with the Jewish mob, a guy named Jacob Rubenstein. And all these people are Zionists. And a couple weeks before JFK was ever murdered, there was a Zionist Jew by the name of Edward Epstein who wrote an article 2 weeks before JFK was murdered. It was like 2 or 3 weeks, saying if there's ever a coup in America, it's the CIA. The CIA did it. And that's why I think, all of these influencers, they point to the CIA, but they never mention Mossad, because anybody who mentions Mossad, and will actually acknowledge the evidence has a hard time denying it. And that's why you get people like Ben Shapiro saying the stupidest shit that I could even imagine. Why does it matter who assassinated the US president?
Yeah.
The leader of the most powerful country in the world? Well, Ben, it matters because we're supposed to be the most powerful country in the world, and the president is supposed to be the leader of the most powerful country in the world. So, Ben, if that person can get assassinated, we should want to know who can do that. That's why it matters. That should be a fairly obvious question. And even aside of that, as an American citizen, I would like to know who killed JFK. Like, even if you take away all that stuff about the powerful aspect, I would like to know who assassinated one of my favorite presidents.
Yeah. Somebody did I couldn't find it, but I was looking for, somebody did the fixed it for you kind of, they took this, and I think they did it was really funny. I wish I could find it, but they said, why does it actually matter that the Mossad and that they changed the words around and say, fixed it for you, Ben. Yeah, it does matter. It does effing matter. And it matters that the agencies that we were supposed to be, the whole deep state, this is back to the MAGA movement, which the reality is, the thing that we were told that a lot of people voted for, that they were going to go in and stir some shit up and take out the deep state and get things right and do everything. No, this isn't happening because all of these agencies are captured. When we have someone like this assigned to our CDC, this is our new CDC director nominee. She's going to get right in. No one's pushing back. They're going to go through the fake theater that they have to be upset at her, but it's not going to, she's going right in. There's no question about it. Yeah. She's going right in, and she's letting you know that your 6-year-old needs to be, I'm sorry, 6-month-year-old. Your 6-month-year-old needs to be ready to sign up and do this right now before they die of whatever the thing is. I guess COVID's going to kill your 6-month-old. That's what we're being told. And she's going to continue telling this. The CDC is going to continue doing this garbage throughout the next 4 years. Nothing's going to change. Meanwhile, our Health and Human Services secretary is going to keep tweeting out anti-Semitic problems on campuses is our biggest problem. Thank you, Health and Human Services Secretary RFK
it's
Jr.
a poison, Matt. That's why he's talking about it. Anti-Semitism is a poison. That's why he thinks he can talk about it. No.
So, yeah. Welcome to the I guess the golden age of America. Welcome to the golden age of America. Here we are.
Don't forget, listen, the time that Trump points to as the golden age of America, America had one of the craziest rates of inequality like in the world at that time under William McKinley, which is who he wants to base his economic policy off of. He says, everything was great back then. There was no income tax. Oh, yeah. Well, don't forget, Trump, 80% of the country was in drastic poverty. And maybe 10% was living pretty good. But the rest of us, were flat broke, destitute, and, working 7 days a week. So, if that's what you're using as your model, sir, I mean, don't really sound too good to me. But for anyone who's hoping that, Trump is serious about dismantling the deep state, just think about this. Trump has appointed the deep state to be in charge of dismantling the deep state because Elon Musk bids on contracts with the main contractor of the CIA. That is Palantir. They are business partners. Peter Thiel and Elon Musk are direct business partners. They have a long history together. Go back to the PayPal mafia days when they were both running PayPal, and they bid on contracts together. You can't dismantle the deep state if you appoint the deep state to get that job done. Like, it's not going to happen.